Yeah, I spent many hours in the hospital unable to move, counting ceiling tiles, questioning the meaning of life and certainly the meaning of my life, like what have I done to deserve this kind of thing. But you have to get over that and you have to move on, and kind of adopted the philosophy, without the struggle, you don't have the strength. So the struggles that I have gone through have given me the strength to fight them. I mean, even in my weakest moments, I'm stronger than I was before. You are not your diagnosis, and you are definitely stronger than you think you are. And it's different now, but it's good and it's positive. And I just think that that's something to keep hold of, not letting your diagnosis beat you.
Hey everyone, this is Rod Cade, and welcome to this week's episode of Rocket Motivation. I want to thank our sponsor, Gat Creek, a wood furniture manufacturer crafting handmade furniture, all made in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia. Visit gatcreek.com. At age 38, this week's guest was diagnosed with early onset Parkinson's disease, which makes the management of the disease particularly challenging. Only about 5% of all people diagnosed with Parkinson's have early onset. On top of Parkinson's disease, in her mid-40s, she was stricken with Guillain-Barre Syndrome, which is GBS, where your body's immune system attacks your nerves. GBS left this week's guest temporarily paralyzed from the neck down, requiring months of hospitalization and rehab, and having to learn to walk all over again. This week's guest is a wife, a mother, an individual, and a great person with a zest for life. Jayne Godfrey, welcome to Rocket Motivation.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Okay, so Jayne, kind of tell us where you are now in your life, family, where you live, how you spend your time.
Well, I'm married, been married for almost 32 years. I have 2 adult children, 1 married daughter, live in Spanish Fort, Alabama, and spend my time with family and friends and trying to make the most of every day.
All right. Well, Jayne, let's go back to your diagnosis of Parkinson's disease. You know, talk about your life at that time and then kind of what led up to, going to seek treatment.
Well, it was a very busy time in my life. I had a young family. I had a job that I loved. I was a paralegal, a busy, active life, and I was a runner also at the time. And I guess the symptoms had been building for some time, and I overlooked them as just too much stress, too much coffee, too much activity, kind of totally not having Parkinson's in my forefront of my thoughts. And then I started falling on my runs. And finally, after the second or third fall, my husband said, okay, something's wrong and we got to figure this out. And we went for testing at that point.
So you get tested, you get diagnosed. All right, tell us what happened there.
We ended up at the Mayo Clinic because I was in complete denial of the diagnosis, was convinced it was wrong. And my Parkinson's was for older people. It certainly wasn't for me. And unfortunately for us, when we went to the Mayo Clinic, we did not have a positive experience. It was a very negative experience. We were basically told I should quit my job. I was disabled. I needed to focus on my family. I needed to get my ducks in a row kind of thing. And it was a very difficult, unpleasant experience. It was not a positive experience at all.
Yeah, almost kind of like your life was over.
Terrifying.
Right. Golly. Okay, you come back from the Mayo Clinic. You've got this, first of all, the diagnosis is not what you really wanted to hear, I guess. But then you get a doctor who's not very positive about it. So when you come back, how does it initially change your life?
Well, it changes absolutely everything because suddenly you have this entity in your life that is all-consuming. You can't get away from it. It impacts every thought you have, every decision you make. Basically, what we decided to do was go ahead and quit my job, file for disability, and prepare for the worst, which is not necessarily what happened. And so what I did in response to Parkinson's was throw myself into fundraising and support groups and trying to be the poster child for Parkinson's. I guess I thought that's what courage was, and I thought that's how I was going to beat it. I was going to find that cure and raise that money and do all those things. And while I still believe that that's important, I don't think that that was the total answer for me.
And what do you mean by that? Because you said, you thought that was what courage was, to go do these fundraisers, to kind of throw yourself into it. So, and what do you mean like that wasn't for you? I mean, explain that.
I don't want to backpedal on what I said, but courage for me, the way I was going to face Parkinson's was I was going to beat it. I was going to raise the money, find the cure, make all the connections I could make, learn everything I could, basically obsess over the disease until I could figure out why I had it. And then I thought if I could figure out why it happened to me, then I could fix it. I still believe in all the fundraising. I still believe that there is a cure out there. I just don't necessarily believe that it's my responsibility to uncover it anymore.
And how did you get there? All right, so because you've thrown yourself all into the fundraising and you've thrown yourself into the research. At some point, it must dawn on you, maybe this isn't the way I want to go. Maybe I've got a different route. I mean, how did that come about?
Honestly, I think I really backed off of it when I was diagnosed with Guillain-Barre Syndrome. I think that was a big wake-up call for me and changed pretty much my perspective on everything. Then I decided that for me, courage was just listening to that small voice at the end of the day that said, you gave it your best shot, you lived your best day, and you're going to wake up tomorrow and do it again. And then I was satisfied with that as my courage.
Right. And before we get to the Guillain-Barre, you've got the diagnosis of Parkinson's, but you deal with it. I mean, you keep exercising. I know you said you quit your job, but I mean, you're...
Oh, definitely. Exercise is paramount with Parkinson's. It's use or lose it. So I had actually gotten back to running again, was very active and tried to be as fit as I could be at that point.
And before you get to GBS, though, so, I mean, tell me what's going through your mindset. I know you talked about the fundraising and, what's going on in your mind. I mean, I know you quit your job, but you're a wife, you're a mother, you've got a life going on, but now you've got this diagnosis of Parkinson's. I mean, so where is your mind right here? What are you thinking about?
Well, that's kind of an interesting and loaded question because Parkinson's is an all-encompassing disease. It affects your mind, body, and spirit. It is everything. So mentally and emotionally, I was basically just trying to tell myself I could beat it. I could exercise it away. I could fundraise it away. I could enjoy the support of family and friends to the point that it just wasn't real. I just didn't fully accept it, even though I had the diagnosis, I guess. I was just fighting it.
Right. And how did you deal with the physical part of it? And this is before you got GBS. I mean, could you tell, after your diagnosis, but, I know there were several years that went by before you had the GBS. How were you basically, dealing with the physical part of it?
Exercise was keeping my symptoms at bay, medication, regular checkups.
You're dealing with your Parkinson's. You've been living with your early onset Parkinson's since, age 38. And would you agree I would think you're handling it pretty well, aren't you?
Yeah, I felt pretty good about it. I had been to New York a few times. I had gotten to meet Michael J. Fox. I had raised a good deal of money. I was proud of my contributions. I felt like, living my best life with Parkinson's, definitely.
Okay. All right. Then GBS strikes. What happened?
It was very brutal, and the onset was very quick. And basically what GBS is an autoimmune condition, in my case, an idiopathic or unknown origin. So we don't know what caused it, wherein your body basically attacks itself and it affects the nerve, the myelin sheath of the nerves. So it caused me paralysis. And within a matter of 3 days, I was paralyzed from the neck down.
So how long were you in the hospital and then rehab?
All total, it took me a good year to recover, but hospital, I was in ICU for at least a month and then hospitalization for probably 6 weeks. And then inpatient rehab following.
Right. And so, well, first of all, I mean, the odds of getting early onset Parkinson's, pretty low. Then on top of that, you get GBS. You're probably one of the few people in the world that have dealt with these two diseases.
Just a lucky girl.
Yeah. The odds of getting both of those are just, they're so low, and you get them. So have you ever thought, kind of like, what the hell? Why me? How can this happen to me?
Well, I would be lying if I said no. So, of course, yeah, I spent many hours in the hospital unable to move, counting ceiling tiles, questioning the meaning of life and certainly the meaning of my life. Like, what have I done to deserve this kind of thing? But you have to get over that and you have to move on. And I've kind of adopted the philosophy, without the struggle, you don't have the strength. So the struggles that I have gone through have given me the strength to fight them.
Right. And you get out of the hospital in rehab. I know you had to learn to walk all over again. And so now you got GBS on top of your Parkinson's. You're out, you learn to walk again. So what do you do at this point to put your life back together?
Faith and family and friends, and learning to accept support and help from the people that want to help you. And just by learning to surround myself with people that make me feel good and make me feel like I can do things. I used to be kind of a people pleaser, always running around like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to make everybody's lives better around me. And I've kind of backed off of that a little bit and kind of a little more self-care.
Okay. So how was it that you got, like physically, you learned to walk again, still got the Parkinson's? As far as physically kind of getting it going, how hard was that? And what did you do?
It was extremely difficult. It was painful. It was frightening. It was overwhelming. I don't know how I got through it. I think I got through it with the help of my husband, my family, who were all round the clock available to me, my friends. I also had medication, IVIG, which is an immunoglobulin serum that was administered to me probably 4 times, including hospital and home care, before it finally kicked in and did what it was supposed to do to get my immune system back on track so that I could start to heal.
Right. And I know, because I know you, Jayne, and I know, and you talked about earlier how important exercise is. But so the first time you go out, I guess, walking for exercise after GBS, how far were you able to go? I mean, how difficult was it?
Well, your beautiful wife happens to be one of my best friends, and we were running partners before I was, stricken, for lack of a better word, with GBS, and we ran every day together, and I was so frightened to go back to any type of exercise because it was painful, and I was still using a walker and wasn't my best self at all. And she encouraged me and got me out on a flat road and said, we're just going to go as far as we can go. And we start 10 steps, 15 steps, 20 steps until we got to the point where we were back walking. Now we walk 4 miles a day. I don't try to run anymore, but we do walk.
And how's the walking now? I mean, I would assume although you're 4 miles a day, so that's pretty good. Most people don't walk 4 miles a day. But how is it for you physically to do that? Is it tough?
Some days it's harder than others, but I know, like I said earlier, it's everything. It's use or lose. It helps me. The days I don't do it, I notice a definite difference in my stamina and my ability to get through the day and handle even little stresses. So it's actually everything. It's my best medicine.
And then, of course, on top of that, with the Parkinson's is a progressive disease.
Unfortunately, with progressive disease without a cure.
Okay. And so I know you're 52 now. Say go back over, 10 years. Can you tell that your Parkinson's has progressed? I mean, is it tougher now than it was 10 years ago?
Sadly, yes, it has progressed. And some of that is a little bit confused with the GBS residuals because they have a lot of similarities to Parkinson's. But I believe myself, with the help of my doctor's diagnosis, there's about 5 stages of Parkinson's, I believe, to be in stage 2, kind of hovering over stage 3 of Parkinson's, where basic everyday tasks are more difficult and you're starting to have balance issues and needing a little more assistance throughout the day.
Now, what goes through your mind, all right, knowing that, all right, this is progressing. I mean, things are more difficult now than they were. I mean, do you ever think about where am I going to be 5 years, 10 years down the road?
Honestly, I'm trying to just do a day-to-day. Live my best life, try not to focus too much on what will be and just live the best day I can. And I feel like that's the best way to stave off the horribles, just kind of focusing on the good in every day. And, on the days that I'm having a bad day and I don't want to do anything, just kind of doing one more thing, making myself just do, whether it's wash a dish or go to the store or just one thing I don't want to do. I just try to do that one thing and try to find gratitude in the little things and appreciation for all the little boxes you can tick throughout the day.
Now, here's going to be a very broad question. How would you characterize having the Parkinson's and then the GBS on top of it? How's it? other than the obvious, of course, physically, but I guess down deep, how has it affected your life?
Well, this is going to sound super cheesy, but I really feel like, yes, I have these horrible things that have happened to me, and it has been traumatizing, but it's also been the greatest blessing. It has shown me love like I've never thought I could imagine in my life. It has shown me so many wonderful, amazing people that have such strength and grit and determination that inspire me to want to do and be better. I've just absolutely found the best friends and the best family, and I'm just grateful. It just has given me an absolute feeling of gratitude, and life is good and beautiful and should be enjoyed every day.
And so, although you kind of answered this question when I was going to ask you, so, after going through all this, what is your philosophy on life?
When life gives you lemons, instead of making lemonade, take the lemons, put them in the freezer, get them good and hard, take them out and chuck them at whoever or whatever is messing with your life. And so I'm kind of living a daily lemon chuck. Every day just picking it up and chucking it back and saying, I can do this. One more lemon.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's talk about advice you might give for others that are going through Parkinson's. Let's say you got some people that got early onset Parkinson's now, or just have been diagnosed. You've been there, you've been through it. What advice would you give them?
You are not your diagnosis, and you are definitely stronger than you think you are. And the human spirit is very resilient, and I believe that you can convince yourself a lot of things, and negativity has no place in this diagnosis. I was at the best of the best at the Mayo Clinic, and they were wrong. My life wasn't over. It was just beginning. And, it's different now, but it's good and it's positive. And I just think that that's something to keep a hold of, not letting your diagnosis beat you.
Have you ever thought, what would my life have been like had this not happened to me?
I don't think it would have been as rewarding or as fulfilling. I don't think that I would have been able to fully develop my faith. I don't think I would have experienced the deepest loves that I have. I don't think I would appreciate people the way I do.
Do you think that it's made you a stronger person?
Without a doubt.
Okay.
Even in my weakest moments, I'm stronger than I was before.
Yeah. That's what I was wondering, because, I guess until you actually experience some adversity, you've never tested yourself. You don't know how you're going to respond. And I would assume that you believe, and it's pretty obvious, that, your response to adversity has been pretty good.
Well, I hope so. I hope that that can be a bit of a legacy that I can leave for my kids. Adversity does not define you, and that you can overcome it, and that we need to remember that God is always building us, even when we feel broken. It's not, those may be the times when God is building us the strongest, is when we feel the least capable or the most broken. We are the strongest when we can lean into Him and grow.
So, what advice would you give, just to people that are going through adversity? That, it doesn't have to be a particular thing, but, we all go through adversity at some point in our life. Some adversity may not be as bad as others, although it depends on where you're standing as far as whether that your adversity is as bad as others. But, what would somebody that's going through some tough times, what would your advice be based on what you've gone through in your life?
Just maybe to believe that the light is still at the end of the tunnel, that it is possible to overcome, and not to dwell on the negativity, but try to find the silver lining in everything, because there is one. And some days it's really hard to find, but if you look hard enough, it's there. And not to give up, and just don't be defined by your adversity. Be defined by your response to it.
Okay. So, Jayne, it sounds like, before your diagnosis of Parkinson, you were somebody that was pretty much in control of her life. You're going to be the one that beats this. When it finally, I guess it sunk in at some point that you're not going to beat this. Take us through, I guess, that time.
Well, I'm not done trying to beat it, I guess. I'm still fighting it. I'm not going to avoid it. It's happening to me. I'm not embracing it. I'm accepting it, and I'm fighting it the best way I can. I guess I feel that I definitely was in control, and not having control over your life, your body, your mind is very overwhelming for a type A person. But learning to manage that and accept the disease as a part of my life now, and kind of commingling and letting go and accepting that I need help, and that it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to be weak, for lack of a better word, at times, because in those weak moments you gain your greatest strength.
Well, and is it important for you to talk to other people that are going through the similar things that you go through?
I think it's really important for anyone undergoing any type of adversity to talk about it. And if you can talk about it with people that share your like condition or situation, it's even better, because you feel that release of I'm not alone in this, even though I know I'm not alone because I have my family and my friends, like I've said repeatedly in this interview. But having people that understand what you're truly going through and experiencing physically and emotionally and mentally is just completely the most priceless gift.
With my condition too, that's similar. I mean, I've got a very strong, loving family and friends, but they don't understand what it's like to go through what I go through on a daily basis. Unless you're actually feeling it and doing it, no one does. And that's why it's kind of nice when you can talk to people that have gone through it. I've had one of the guests on my show who she's in a wheelchair, but just listening to some of the things that she was talking about that I went through early on, you kind of just nod your head and smile because, they get it. It's just good to have people that you can talk to like that.
It's the wonderful blessing, and it's the silver lining I was talking about, meeting those people and making those connections. And, I kind of probably made it sound like I have this wonderful family, which I do, and this great support system, but I want to be clear and honest that when you are facing some kind of adversity like a chronic illness or an accident or something catastrophic, it has a huge impact on your relationships, and especially a marital relationship. It's very difficult, and you face great struggles, and being able to overcome that is a great source of pride for me.
And with yours, as opposed to mine, my wife, when she met me, I'd already had my injury and paralysis. And so she, although I was going to say she knew what she was getting into, but she probably didn't know what she was getting into. Your situation, you were married already, and then all of a sudden this gets thrust upon you. This is a complete change. You didn't sign up for it. Your husband didn't sign up for it. Well, I mean, how did you get through it? How did you deal with it?
Well, it was not easy. It was, certainly my needs changed and his needs changed, and the way we deal with things are very different. And, he tends to go into himself, and I tend to become very needy and obnoxious and, searching for validation and all the things that maybe, not to stereotype, but maybe that women tend to do and men tend to be more stoic and kind of to themselves. So we had a communication problem. We struggled to meet each other's needs, but we have more than overcome, and he is my rock, and he's never, maybe if I felt he emotionally vacated, he never left my side. He's carried me physically when I couldn't walk. He's bathed me. He's fed me. Having that in my life is a great blessing.
Well, probably a stronger marriage and relationship because of what you have gone through than without it.
It's true. As tragic as it was at a point, it is certainly the best thing in my life now.
Right. If somebody does want to donate, some money for Parkinson's research, what's the best way that they could do it?
Absolutely. Please do. And thank you very much. My preferred avenue to donate is still the michaeljfoxfoundation.org. I believe that when the cure comes, that they will be front and center in finding that cure.
Well, Jayne, we're getting to the end, so I always do this with all my guests. I give them the parting shots. You got any words of wisdom or any other thoughts that we hadn't gone through?
Keep chucking lemons. That's all I've got. Just keep throwing those lemons back and just saying, not today. Listen to the voice that tells you you can do this, and just live your best life every day. Believe in yourself.
All right. Jayne, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me, Rod.
Jayne's story of living with 2 diseases and living her best life is incredibly inspiring. Episode 23 of Rocket Motivation is in the books. Next week's guest is Christian Hadjipateras, who was born with severe and complex craniofacial abnormalities. He underwent roughly 40 procedures to attempt to improve his condition. His story of dealing with facial abnormalities throughout his life is real and inspiring. See you next week. Rocket Motivation partners with Gat Creek, one of America's premier wood furniture makers. Clean, timeless designs define the Gat Creek look. Their made-to-order furniture effortlessly connects with a range of styles from modern to traditional. Check out their full range of products at gatcreek.com. Thanks for listening to the show. If you're interested in getting my book, Get Back Up, just go to Amazon and put in Get Back Up and my name, Rod Caden. It'll pop right up. I would love it if you would subscribe to the podcast and rate and review the show wherever you listen to your podcasts. I would really appreciate it if you'd share it with a friend. I would like as many people to hear my message as possible. Never give up and always get back up. And we'll see you next week.